you will learn how to get logs and metrics from LLM models like OpenAI in Azure API management. These metrics provides important information like the used and the remaining number of tokens, or the number of used tokens per user or per application. This is very important to get an overview about the cost of the model itself, and it's also important to do chargeback for the team. So if the model is shared between multiple teams or multiple applications, then those metrics will enable you to do chargeback per each team. So by default, Azure API Management provides lots of metrics and logs to get an overview about the usage of your different API. And for OpenAI, we have a new policy specific for emitting specific and custom tokens. That custom policy is called Azure OpenAI Emit Token Metric, where here you can give it some custom attributes, like here the subscription ID, that is the Azure API Management subscription ID. Typically you would create a subscription ID for each new API, and then you can add to that data the client IP address, and you can also add the API ID, which is a reference to the API that is being consumed behind API management, and that is typically your LLM model. So how that works? So within Azure API Management, you would have your API or your gateway, and then just you will add a configuration to enable collecting these logs and these metrics. This data could be configured with Azure Application Insights, which is a tool that is used in Azure in order to get those logs metrics and then provide very nice dashboards in order to visualize those data. So Application Insights, that's a developer tool to get logs and metrics for your applications. So with the integration of Application Insights and API Management, we can view those metrics within Application Insights, and from there we can create query using Custo query language, and from there we can see the different data. So like I have here within this print screen, so using custom metrics, for example, which is the data that will host all the metrics coming from API management, you can get those metrics like the client IP address, the application ID, the subscription, the name of the user, if you have enabled that within your custom metrics. So custom metrics, that's the first table. Second table we can explore here is the requests. So this is will provide the logs for all the requests that have been served by Azure API Management. So from here you can see, for example, the user agent or the client agent, the duration of the request, the model that is being requested, and here you can see the full prompt. So here you can see the system prompt, and then you can also view the user message. And you can also view the completion, that's the response of the LLM model. So all of this data is logged within Azure API Management. You can also view additional data like the number of prompts that were consumed, the number of remaining tokens, the total tokens, and so on. So all of this is the data that we'll explore today in order to get the use of the LLM model. So I have taken these screenshots from Azure Application Insights, but you can also explore this data because at the end this data is available in Azure Monitor. So this means that any other tool like Grafana, for example, that can connect to Azure Monitor, managed Grafana on Azure, to have that default data source provider that will connect to your Azure Monitor, and then from there it can get all the data and visualize it within Grafana dashboards like what I have here. So from here you can see those custom metrics and those requests, and also you can view those logs within the same dashboard. This is the theoretical part. Follow me in the next video where we'll see a demonstration on how to enable collecting logs and metrics from Azure API Management for OpenAI. In this video demonstration, you will learn how to collect logs and metrics from Azure API Management that are related to the LLM models like OpenAI. For that, we'll be using a specific policy within API management that is called the Azure OpenAI emit token metric. Let's see how this works. So in our demonstration, we'll be using, or we'll be creating first the infrastructure, and then we'll be enabling the policy, and then we'll see some of the dashboards that will show those metrics and those logs. So for that, we'll start here with the demo environment, where we have some Terraform files that will create all the resources needed in our demonstration. So you can find these within this GitHub repository that is AI course, the folder number 330. So with these files, we'll go to create those different Azure resources. How we can do this? So now if I can switch to my VS Code, where I have cloned this repository locally in my machine, from here you can see within the folder 330 the different Terraform files. So let me explore. Let's explore first those files and what they will create as resources in Azure. So the main resource that we have here is the Azure API management. For here, I'm using the consumption plan within API management, and I'm giving it two airbag roles. First one is the cognitive services OpenAI user. So because here API management will serve the OpenAI models, LLM models within Azure. So here we have created Azure AI services, and then we have created a deployment for GPT-4o model. You can choose any other model actually from ChatGPT. And then I have specified that it's using global standard. The capacity is 20, and then here I'm specifying the format, name, and the version of that model. So then later within API management, we can import that API using a Swagger file or using OpenAPI, and that's what I have done here within API OpenAI here, where I import that file from within this online URL, which is provided by Microsoft, and it provides the full JSON spec for OpenAI. And then here I'm enabling the use of a subscription. And then next, in order to enable the diagnostics, so we'll be using application insights. So first of all, we need to create an application insights instance, and that's what I have done here using this resource called application insights simply. So the resource will be called app insights, and it will be attached to a log analytics instance. For that, we have created here a log analytics instance, and then to that application insights, actually we'll go to enable some property using the AZ API, because as per today that's not supported within the Azure RM block right here. So I do that by using this custom Azure API provider. So I'll just change the property custom metrics opted in type with dimensions. And then we go to enable a logger within Azure API management. So the logger, that's the way how to connect Azure Application Insights to API management, so that API management will send all of these all of these metrics and logs to the application insights. We can view this configuration actually from the Azure portal. So here, if I switch to my Azure subscription, we can view the different resources created by Terraform, like the Azure AI services, the API management, the application insights, the log analytics, and Grafana that we'll explore later. So for now, if I go to Azure API management, and then if I navigate here to the monitoring section, we can view within application insights here that here I have a resource called APIM logger, and this resource actually is the reference to the application insights. So this means that here all the metrics and logs will be sent to this API management logger. Great. In addition to that, actually we have added some other or enable some other features in order to get more metrics and logs, like here using the API management diagnostic, where here we send those kind of logs to the application insights. So we have enabled that on the API management scope, but we have also enabled that specifically to the OpenAI scope right here, where here we provide the logger ID, and also we provide the name of the API management or of the API for OpenAI. Okay, now that everything is good and we have all the resources created successfully, we can go to explore these metrics and logs. But we need first to create those metrics and logs. So we need to add or to generate some traffic on Azure API Management for it to generate this logs and metrics and send it to the Azure Monitor. For that, here I have created this logs and metrics Python notebook that will guide you through the different scripts that you need to run in order to run all of this demo. So first of all, here you should create the resources in Azure using Terraform, and for that you can just run this Terraform code that will run the Terraform commands Terraform init and apply. But before that, make sure that you are saving within an environment called ARM subscription ID. You are saving the subscription ID that you want to use, and that's going to be the target for your resources that will be deployed by Terraform. So that's a requirement. If you are using Windows, use this command env then the ARM subscription ID. And if you are using Linux or macOS, then just use setenv to set that environment variable. Once that's done, that will create the resources that we have seen earlier within the Azure portal, and then you should get the deployment outputs. So within Terraform, we have this output.tf file. This will show after the deployment of the template, it will create some output, which are like, for example, the API management gateway URL, the subscription keys, the application insights ID, the name of the resource groups, and so on. So we can get the value of these different outputs by just calling Terraform output and then the name of the output itself. Okay, so we get it right here, and then we'll go just to print it. So let me just run this code. And then we can see here, it will read the Terraform state file that will be created by Terraform, and it will generate all of these outputs. So now from within my Python notebook, I have access to these different values. I'll explore them, or I'll use them within the rest of this notebook. So first thing we are going to do here for the testing is that we'll go to run some 10 queries in my case here. So we'll create a message that's part of the prompt, and we'll send this to OpenAI through Azure API Management. So for that, here we are creating a request. So we are using the requests library in order to create an HTTP post request that will be sent to Azure API Management, and to authenticate to API Management we will be using the subscription key, and then we'll provide the JSON payload body using this JSON, which is this JSON content. After that, we'll get the response, and then we'll go to just to process that response, make sure that it's the right response, so we don't have an error code, and then we'll go just to show some values like the region, the tokens that have been used by that response, and so on. So let me run this code right here. So remember, this will run 10 times. It's a loop, and the objective here is to generate some traffic on the API management that will generate some tokens and logs. This will take a few seconds, and from here you can see the output of these of running these operations, and you can see here the operations succeeded. So we can do that either using the requests library, or we can also use the OpenAI Python SDK. That's actually the Azure OpenAI Python SDK, which is different than the OpenAI Python SDK itself. So Azure provides its own SDK. I can run this right here. It's almost the same as the previous ones, but it's more elegant and it's less code. Actually, we can just here provide the Azure endpoint, which is the endpoint of the API management, and then the API key, that's going to be the Azure API management subscription key, and the version of the API used by Azure OpenAI. Great, so we run that 3 times in my case here, just few times to generate logs and metrics. And then, so at this point, we should have some logs and metrics already produced. We should wait for 1 to 5 minutes, it depends on your case, before these metrics get sent to application insights and before we can query those logs and metrics. So here I try with this query. So we'll run this query against Azure Monitor. For that, we'll be using the AZ command line to run AZ Monitor Application Insights. Then we provide the query, and then we provide the Application Insights application ID. So if I run this query right here, we'll get the result. We'll show it in a table. And here it is, here is our table. So you can view here the data like the timestamp, the API name, the API management subscription key, the duration of the request, the user agent that have been used, the client agent, and the model, which is ChatGPT 4.0 in 4.0 in my case, and then the full message. So here we can view it actually if we expand this window, but here you can see actually the prompt and also the response to that prompt. You can see the region, the prompt token, and so on. So lots of data is available right here. If I slide a little bit to the right here, you can see also the number of the tokens that have been consumed, the number of remaining tokens, the number of remaining requests, which is the data that should be used in order to get an overview about the consumption of the model. So that same data actually we can see it or we can query it from application insights within Azure itself. So from here I can just get this request from here. I just copy it, and then I can go to my Azure Application Insights instance, then navigate to where I have logs right here, and then I can just paste that command. Make sure I don't have those trailing points right here, so I do just Control F, and then I replace it with none, replace all, and we should be okay at this time. And this will send the query to the requests table that will contain all of these data. Note here we are doing lots of project extend and so on, so we are modifying this default table. So now if I just run the whole request by clicking on the run button, we should see the response coming right here, and we should see the table that will be shown in here. So this table almost contains the same information as the ones that we have seen in the Python notebook. So here you can see the subscription, API subscription key, the duration of the response, the model, the prompt, the full prompt itself, the response from the model, the region, the remaining tokens, the used tokens, the remaining requests, and so on. Great. So that's the data that we can see and we can explore. I'll move next to the rest of this demonstration, where here we'll go to explore the workbooks within the Azure portal. So actually, to get this data, either you go to Application Insights, and each time you run this query, you can actually save it right here. But you can also create a notebook. What is a notebook? So within this Azure subscription, the notebook is this one right here. We have created this notebook using also the Terraform code, where we have here the Application Insights workbook right here. So you give it a name, you give it a resource group location, and then you specify a JSON file that contains the source code, let's say for the workbook. The JSON file right here, that's OpenAI usage analysis, which is this one. That's JSON file that will contain actually the different dashboards that should be used, and also the queries that will be used in order to get the logs and metrics from the application insights. So here you can see, for example, an example of the query right here. Once this is deployed to Azure, we can view the dashboard that it will provide. So from that Azure workbook, I can go to the workbook section right here, and I can see some of the data that's coming from those queries. So we can view here, for example, almost the same data that we have seen earlier. And then you can actually go to customize this notebook if you want to. You can make it the home page within your Azure subscription and so on. Let's explore other features. So here I'll continue with this notebook where we go to execute multiple runs for each subscription. So in this API management, we have created actually 3 subscription keys. We have subscription key number 1, 2, and number 3. Okay, so here we go to run multiple requests. We're using one different subscription key each time. Okay, so let's do that. I'll just click on this run button, so that will run the different queries using different subscription keys. And our objective here is to track the usage for the tokens for each subscription key. We can have here a subscription key that is associated or that is linked to a specific application, and if we track the tokens consumed by a subscription key, this means that that's the same tokens that are consumed by the application that is using that subscription key. Okay, so once we have done that, we can now go to run or analyze the application insights custom metrics with Kusto query language query. For that, we'll be exploring the query table. So from here, if I run this query, this full query that actually uses the name of the table, that's custom metrics, not query, and here we are doing some transformation to the data that we get from the custom metrics, and from here we can see for each subscription key the number of times that it was used and the client IP from which the user request was originated from. Now if I run this again, note this actually will take 1 to 5 minutes before the data will be sent from API management to the application insights. So give it a bit of time and run it again, and then you will see a different response where here we can view also the user ID. So here we can see a user called Alex. From where that comes actually, so there we should take a look at the policy.xml file. So within this policy, we are just providing the authentication part, which is the standard part for API management to authenticate to the Azure OpenAI using managed identity. And then we are using the Azure OpenAI emit token metric. With this one, we'll go to add additional metrics or additional data to the metrics that will be exported and provided by Azure API management. So we provide, for example, the subscription ID, the client ID, or the client IP by just getting that value from the user request by querying the IP address from context.request. And then the same way we get from the context the API ID, and then we get also the user ID. Okay. And that user Alex, actually that's not me, but actually if we scroll up here to go where we have provided the user request, here we have provided an extra header for each HTTP post request to the model, where here we have included a header that is called X user ID, and its value is Alex. Okay, so we can add those extra headers to the HTTP request, and those headers will be seen by API management, and they will be exported and sent to the application insights. So from within application insights, when we query the data, we should see those headers available right here inside the user ID column. Okay, so this same query right here that was used right here against Azure Monitor, we can go just to copy it and use it from within the Azure portal, where here I can switch to my Azure portal to the application insights this time, and from here I can go to the logs again, and I can use this new log, but I need first to replace those trailings. That's good. And now I can run it, and then I should see almost the same data as I have seen from my notebook. And yes, we're here, we can see that exact data. Note that here you can also view those metrics from within the Azure portal. So from Azure Application Insights, if you go to metrics right here, okay, to abandon this, you can select here from metric namespace, you can select OpenAI, and then here you can see, for example, the total tokens that have been consumed, and here you can see the number of the consumed tokens. And if I change the aggregation to sum, then here I can get actually a better view for the tokens that are consumed each time. So you can get the metrics and the logs from the Azure portal through using Azure Application Insights, but some other enterprises actually wants to use some other tools other than Application Insights, and that's possible within Azure, because at the end all of these metrics and logs will be available within Azure Monitor. So any other third-party tool that can connect to the Azure Monitor and query or get this data, it can just get the data and represent it itself. One of these tools, of this very famous tools, is Grafana dashboards. Okay, so Grafana, that's an open source tool that you can use it and you can deploy it within your own infrastructure, or you can just use a managed Grafana service within Azure that is called Azure Managed Grafana. Okay, and in my demonstration this time I'm going to show you how you can use Grafana to query those logs and metrics from Azure Monitor and then show it within a Grafana dashboard. So actually, as per today, there are two Grafana dashboards. The first one you can use is with this ID 16604, that you can import it to your Grafana instance, or you can use another one that I've built myself, and I've provided the source code within this repository. That's the Grafana dashboard APIM, which is this this JSON file right here. Okay, so we'll use that. But before doing that, actually we need to make sure that we have Grafana instance available, and that's what I have created with this grafana.tf file that will create a managed Grafana instance. We'll give it the required access role, we'll give the current user the Grafana admin role so that it can connect to the Grafana, and it can also create additional or import additional dashboards. And then we'll give it the right airbag role for monitoring as monitoring reader on my resource group. Okay, that way it can read the data that was emitted from this resource group. So now from my Azure subscription, I should see Grafana instance created. I'll go navigate to that Grafana instance, and here on the right we can see the link for this Grafana instance. So I click on that link, that will open a new window for me, and it should first ask me to authenticate, okay, through by using my email, that is the same email used on my Azure subscription. Once I'm authenticated, I can now access to the dashboards. So from here you can see some existing dashboards, like from Azure Monitor and Microsoft Defender, and here you can also add or import some extra dashboards. So here I'll go to import the dashboard that we have talked about within the Python notebook. That's the dashboard available right here. We have the link for that dashboard. Let's click on that, and that link will take us actually to Grafana Labs, where we have a marketplace for different dashboards, and you can see here this dashboard that they have published. And when you deploy it, should give you some information like this. So to deploy this dashboard, either you just go to download the JSON file, or you can just copy the ID of the dashboard. So each dashboard in Grafana have an ID that's available. That's this one actually here, and I can go here to just copy the ID of that Grafana. So then here I can go back to my Grafana instance, and I can go to create a new Grafana dashboard by importing an existing dashboard. So I click on import, and then I paste here the ID of the Grafana dashboard that I want to import, and then I click just load. And from here, then I need to provide the name for that dashboard, and then I should provide a data source for it. So the data source used by this dashboard should be of type Azure Monitor. So I'll provide Azure Monitor right here, because each Grafana resource actually would have the Azure Monitor enabled. I'll just provide that resource and I click import. Once that's done, this will take me directly to the dashboard, and here I can view some data coming from Azure Monitor that is represented in this dashboard. So we can see the custom metrics, the requests, and then we can view in a table right here the different requests from the users with their IP address, the subscription key that was used, the name of the user if it's provided within the additional headers, and within the requests we can provide the custom query in order to view some data like the model name, like the prompt, the response, the region of the model, the number of the available tokens, the consumed tokens, and so on. And in addition to that, you can also explore custom metrics to view the usage of these tokens also. And if you don't see any data available in this dashboard, so make sure that you have selected the right instance of Azure Monitor and the right subscription, the right resource group, and also the right instance of your application and sites. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.